Have you ever walked into a room, seen a group of people talking, and immediately started planning your escape route? You check your phone, you pretend you're waiting for someone, you suddenly become deeply interested in the design of the floor tiles. And the crazy part is, before you even say a single word, your brain has already convinced you that something terrible is about to happen. They're going to judge you. You're going to say something stupid. You're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to prove once again that you're just not one of those naturally confident people. But what if I told you that social anxiety isn't actually a social problem? What if it's a prediction problem? And what if the way to eliminate social anxiety isn't to become fearless overnight, but to slowly collect evidence, one conversation at a time, that your fears are lying to you? Because that's exactly what changed everything for me. I remember standing outside a networking event years ago. I had paid for the ticket. I had dressed up. I had rehearsed conversation starters in my head for 2 hours. And yet there I was, standing outside the building, pretending to reply to a text message that didn't exist. Have you ever done that? You know what's funny? The event wasn't scary, the people weren't scary, my imagination was scary. Because when you have social anxiety, you don't experience reality. You experience a movie trailer created by your fears. And that trailer always sucks. In your mind, every conversation becomes a disaster movie. You say hello, and somehow the other person hates you. You tell a joke, and suddenly the room goes silent. You introduce yourself awkwardly, and everybody remembers it forever. Meanwhile, reality is usually far more boring. That's when I realized something that changed my life. Confidence is not the absence of anxiety. Confidence is evidence. Think about learning to swim. Nobody stands at the edge of a pool repeating positive affirmations until they suddenly become confident swimmers. You get into the water, you panic a little, you survive, then you do it again. Social confidence works exactly the same way. The first lesson that changed my relationship with social anxiety was understanding that your goal is not to have perfect conversations. Your goal is to collect proof that imperfect conversations don't kill you. This sounds obvious, but think about how you've been approaching social situations. You walk into a conversation trying to win. You want to sound intelligent. You want to sound funny. You want to sound confident. You want them to like you. That's too much pressure for one human interaction. Imagine going to the gym for the first time and deciding that today's goal is to deadlift 500 pounds. You'd never do that. Yet socially, we do this all the time. Instead, I started creating tiny missions. One conversation, one question, one interaction. I remember challenging myself to ask one stranger for directions, even when I already knew where I was going. Sounds ridiculous, right? But something fascinating happened. The person smiled. They gave me directions. They didn't think I was weird. They didn't call security. They didn't gather a committee to discuss my social performance. The world continued exactly as before. And that's when I realized that social anxiety survives through a lack of evidence. Every successful interaction becomes a piece of proof that your fears are exaggerating reality. So here's something you can do immediately. Tomorrow, your mission isn't to become charismatic. Your mission is to have one tiny conversation. Ask the cashier how their day is going. Ask a coworker what they're working on. Ask someone for a recommendation. That's it. Because confidence compounds. One conversation becomes two become 10, and eventually your brain runs out of evidence to support its own fear. But there's another problem that nobody talks about. Most socially anxious people are actually incredibly self-aware. In fact, they're too self-aware. Let me explain. Imagine you're driving a car while staring at yourself in the rearview mirror. How well do you think that drive is going to go? That's exactly what happens during social anxiety. Instead of paying attention to the conversation, you're monitoring yourself. How do I sound? Where should I put my hands? Was that weird? Should I smile more? Did they notice my voice shake? You're not having a conversation. You're conducting a performance review. I used to do this constantly. I'd leave conversations and replay them like a sports commentator analyzing game footage. At minute 3, you made awkward eye contact. At minute 5, your joke wasn't funny. At minute 7, you probably ruined the entire friendship. And then one day, someone asked me a question that completely destroyed this habit. They asked, "How much time do you spend analyzing other people's social mistakes?" I thought about it. Honestly, almost none. If someone stumbled over a word, I forgot about it immediately. If someone told an awkward joke, I didn't care. If someone seemed nervous, I usually felt empathy, not judgment. So why did I assume everyone else was analyzing me the way I analyzed myself? This brings me to the second lesson. Attention creates anxiety. The more attention you place on yourself, the more anxious you become. The solution isn't to stop being anxious. The solution is to become curious. Instead of asking, "How am I doing?" ask, "Who is this person?" What do they care about? What excites them? What are they worried about? What's their story? Because here's the secret. People love talking to people who are genuinely interested in them, not people who are trying to impress them. And the beautiful thing about curiosity is that it pulls you out of your own head. The next time you're nervous, stop trying to perform and start trying to discover. You'll be amazed by how quickly anxiety loses its grip. Now, there's another reason social anxiety feels so painful. It's because we think every conversation determines our worth. You walk away from an interaction and immediately decide whether you're valuable based on how it went. Good conversation, you're amazing. Awkward conversation, you're a failure. Can you imagine living like that? Actually, you don't have to imagine. Some of you are doing it every day. I remember speaking at an event once. Hundreds of people attended. Most of it went great. People laughed, people connected, people thanked me afterward, but one person looked bored. And guess which person I thought about for the next 3 days? That one. Because our brains are not designed for confidence. They're designed for survival, and survival means paying attention to danger. The problem is that social anxiety labels everything as danger. This leads to the third lesson. Stop grading yourself after conversations. Seriously, imagine if every basketball player quit after missing one shot. Imagine if every musician quit after playing one wrong note. Social skills are skills. Not personality traits, not identity tests, skills. And skills improve through repetition. After every conversation, ask yourself one question. Not, was I good? Ask, did I show up? That's it. Did you start the conversation? Did you stay in it? Did you try? Then congratulations, you won. Because courage isn't feeling comfortable. Courage is participating while uncomfortable. And the more you practice measuring courage instead of performance, the faster social anxiety begins to fade. But here's the lesson that changed everything for me. The lesson I wish someone had told me years earlier. Ready? People are not looking for perfection, they're looking for connection. Think about the people you enjoy being around. Are they perfect? Of course not. They forget words, they tell bad jokes, they laugh at the wrong moments. Sometimes they overshare, sometimes they're awkward, and yet you like them. Why? Because perfection is not what creates connection. Humanity creates connection. I once met a guy at an event who spilled coffee on himself within the first 30 seconds of introducing himself. He looked horrified. Then he started laughing, and suddenly everyone around him started laughing too. He became one of the most memorable people there. Not because he was smooth, because he was human. Social anxiety tricks you into believing that every flaw pushes people away. But often, those flaws are exactly what pull people closer. The fourth lesson is simple. Stop trying to appear confident. Start trying to be present. There's a massive difference. When you're trying to appear confident, you're acting. When you're trying to be present, you're connecting. And connection always beats performance. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. But what if I really do say something awkward? You will. But what if I embarrass myself? You will. But what if someone doesn't like me? They won't, sometimes. And that's okay, because the goal was never to eliminate awkwardness. The goal was to eliminate the fear of awkwardness. Think about that. You don't need a life without uncomfortable moments. You need a life where uncomfortable moments no longer control you. Because here's the truth about social anxiety that nobody tells you. You don't overcome it before you start living. You overcome it by living, one conversation at a time, one awkward interaction at a time, one brave moment at a time. And eventually, something incredible happens. You stop walking into rooms asking, will they accept me? And you start walking into rooms asking, I wonder who I'll meet today. That shift changes everything. So the next time your brain tells you not to start the conversation, not to raise your hand, not to introduce yourself, not to speak up, remember this. Your anxiety is making a prediction, not telling the truth. And predictions can be challenged, one conversation at a time, because confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you collect. And somewhere out there, maybe tomorrow, maybe this afternoon, maybe 5 minutes after watching this video, there's a conversation waiting to prove that you've been stronger than your fear all along.